Welcome to Animal Stories for Kids. If you like our stories, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your friends and family. And now, it's time for our story. Once upon a time, there was a bee named Melina. Melina the bee lived inside a busy hive where the air hummed with soft movement. Thousands of bees moved through waxy rooms shaped like tiny six-sided boxes, the combs smelling of warm flowers and sunshine tucked into golden pockets. Worker bees brushed past one another, fuzzy bodies dusted in pollen. Some fed larvae, some cleaned, some tended the queen, some guarded the entrance. Everyone had a job. Melina was a worker bee, small, striped, and very busy. When she was younger, she had cleaned empty cells, fed baby bees, and fanned her wings to keep the hive the right temperature. Now she was old enough to fly out and forage, gathering nectar and pollen from flowers. To Melina, that sounded like the greatest adventure in the world. All around her, the honeycomb glowed faintly gold in the early light slipping through the entrance. Bees passed in steady streams, the whole hive moving with purpose. Melina was proud to be part of it. And today, Melina had a plan. The day before, she had returned from a patch of clover with a good load of nectar. But far beyond the creek, past the lavender and the tall silver grass, she had glimpsed something new. A bright stretch of yellow flowers flashing in the sunlight. She had not gone there. It had been late in the day, and wise bees do not wander far when the sun is dropping and shadows are growing long. But now, morning was just beginning, and Melina the bee could not stop thinking about those flowers. "Today," she whispered, "I'm going to find out what those are." Before she left, Melina hovered near the entrance and turned in small circles. Young foragers often make short flights like this to memorize their home. Melina the bee studied the dark trunk of the nearby tree, the shine of the creek, the broad, flat stone at the hive's doorway, and the angle of the morning sun. She tucked the shape of the world into her mind. Then she lifted into the air and flew into the day. At first, everything was familiar. She passed the clover patch where pink blossoms nodded low in the grass. She passed lavender spikes glowing purple-blue, rich with nectar. She skimmed over black-eyed Susans and wild mustard trembling in the breeze. The air smelled green and sweet, and every flower seemed to call, "Land here. Land here. Just one sip." Melina the bee took quick tastes from a few blossoms to keep her energy up, then flew on. Ahead, the creek wrinkled silver around smooth stones. Melina flew lower as she crossed it. Bees need water, but they are careful around deep surfaces. A bee that slips into water can drown if they cannot climb out. Melina kept to the air, following the line of wet stones and muddy edges where bees sometimes land safely to drink. On the far side of the creek, the land changed. The grass grew taller. The flowers were more scattered at first. Melina the bee slowed, reading the field with her eyes, with the sun, with scent, and with growing memory. Then she saw them. A wide patch of yellow flowers opened ahead like a dropped piece of sunlight. Melina buzzed with delight and flew closer. The flowers were bursting with pollen. Some had open centers easy to land on, and some held nectar tucked just deep inside. Melina the bee landed on the first blossom and was dusted across her face and thorax with fine yellow grains. Her feathery body hairs caught the pollen easily. She drank nectar, stored it in her honey stomach, and combed pollen down into the baskets on her hind legs. One flower led to another, and another. Her pollen baskets grew heavy. She moved efficiently, skipping blossoms that had already been emptied and returning to the richest cluster. "This," she murmured happily, "was worth the trip." Then the wind changed. A cool push hit her wings, stronger than the gentle morning breeze. Tall grass bent in a rippling wave. Flower stems swayed. Melina the bee tightened her grip on the blossom. A stronger gust followed. She let go and dropped lower, flying closer to the ground where stems and leaves softened the wind. But the field had grown restless now. Blossoms bobbed unpredictably. The air tugged at her. Flying with a full load was harder in gusty weather, and Melina knew it. She had made a sensible choice. She would head home. Melina the bee lifted from the flower patch and turned toward where she believed the hive to be. She flew steadily, correcting against the wind. At first, she recognized the silver line of the creek. That was good. But then, the clouds slid over the sun. Melina slowed. Bees use many cues to navigate: the sun's position, patterns of light, landmarks, and memory. With moving wind, shifting light, and a new distance, the world suddenly felt less certain. Below her, the meadow no longer looked simple. Every patch of grass waved at once. Every cluster of flowers looked almost like the next. Melina the bee circled once, then twice, trying to match what she saw to what she remembered. That was when a shadow flicked past. Melina dropped fast. A dragonfly zipped through the space where she had been a heartbeat before, body flashing green-blue, wings beating like glass. Dragonflies are swift hunters, able to snatch small insects from the air, and Melina the bee knew better than to stay high in the open sky. She dove into the shelter of dense flowers and clung to the underside of a leaf. For a long moment, she stayed very still. Above her, the dragonfly passed once, circled back, then moved on. Melina the bee waited longer anyway. In danger, stillness can be as useful as speed. Her antenna twitched. Her small heart kept its quiet work. Finally, when the air felt clear again, she crawled out from under the leaf. Now she had two problems. The wind had pushed her off course, and the attack had cost her time. She wasn't panicked, but she was no longer quite sure where home was. Melina the bee climbed onto a sturdy stem and turned slowly. Then she did what bees do best when confused. She paid attention. The clouds were thinning. Through the brightening sky, she sensed the sun's position again. Below, she noticed the silver wink of the creek. Beyond that stood the tall tree she had studied before leaving. Near it, small but sure, lay the dark little shape of the hive's home among the grass. Melina the bee held still for one more heartbeat to fix the path in her mind. Then she flew. This time, she stayed lower and used the land to guide her. She crossed the creek where smooth stones made a pale stripe. She passed the lavender patch, easy to recognize by its purple spires. She skimmed over clover. She knew this place now, not just as a way out, but as a way back. When Melina reached the hive entrance, Relief rushed through her so strongly she nearly bumped aside. Inside the hive felt wonderfully steady. Worker bees touched her with their antennae as she passed. She transferred her nectar to house bees, who would add enzymes and spread it in wax cells so it could thicken toward honey. But Melina the bee was not finished. On the comb, she began to dance. When bee foragers find a rich food source, they can perform a waggle dance to share its direction and distance from where the sun is. Melina wagged with great seriousness. She looped, turned, wagged again, and let her body speak the map she had learned. It was as if she was saying to the other bees, "There are yellow flowers beyond the creek. They are rich and worth visiting. Go when the weather is calm. Use the tree and the creek to guide you home." Her dance was about food, but it was also about what she had discovered, that a good patch could lie farther than expected, and that a careful bee must notice the world, not just rush through it. As evening came on, the hive settled steadily. Nurse bees fed the young. Guard bees watched the entrance. Foragers returned one by one, carrying the last pollen of the day and the last sweetness of the meadow in their honey stomachs. Melina the bee moved more slowly now. The long trip, the rough wind, the sudden shadow, all of it lingered in her small, tired body, but it no longer felt sharp. Inside the hive, with wax beneath her feet and the familiar hum all around her, the day began to soften. She climbed to a quiet place on the comb and paused. The honeycomb held the day's work in quiet golden rows, nectar becoming honey, pollen stored for food, young bees growing cell by cell. Outside, the last light faded from the meadow. Flowers folded their petals. The creek moved through the dark like a whispering song. At last, Melina let her wings rest. She had gone out into the wide field and came back with more than nectar. A path remembered, a danger survived, and a little more wisdom than she had carried out that morning. Tonight, there was warmth and rest, and the deep hum of being part of something that would hold through the dark. So, Melina grew still in the heart of the hive, while beyond the walls, the meadow slept under the stars, and sweetness gathered slowly from all the brave little journeys that ended there. And the bee lived happily ever after. The end. Bees are insects that are cousins of wasps and ants. Bees live almost everywhere in the world, except for Antarctica. There are more than 20,000 different kinds of bees on Earth. The group that includes all bees is called Anthophila, which means flower lovers. A very well-known bee is the western honeybee, the Apis mellifera. Another common group is bumblebees, in the genus Bombus. Bees have three main body parts: the head, thorax, and abdomen. Bees have 6 legs because they are insects. Bees have 4 wings, or 2 pairs, that help them fly and hover over flowers. They have 5 eyes, 2 big eyes on the side, and 3 tiny eyes on top of their head. Bees have mouth parts that work like a long tongue for sipping nectar. Female bees have a stinger. Male bees do not have a stinger. Some bees live together in a big family called a hive or colony. And in these colonies can be three main kinds of bees: one queen, many workers, and some drones. The queen bee is the only mother of the hive and lays all the eggs. Worker bees are all females. They collect food, clean the hive, and care for baby bees. Drones are male bees. Their main job is to mate with the queen, and they do not collect food or have stingers. Bees can make hives out of waxy hexagon cells called honeycomb. Some bees often nest in small spaces, like old mouse holes or small burrows on the ground. Many wild bees, called solitary bees, live alone in tiny holes in wood, rocks, or the ground. Bees visit flowers to drink sweet nectar, which is like sugary juice for them. Bees also collect yellow dust called pollen on their legs and bodies. Bees carry nectar and pollen back to the hive to feed baby bees and other bees. Some bees have special pollen baskets made of hairs on their back legs to hold pollen. Bees can turn flower nectar into honey inside their bodies and in the hive. Bees pass nectar from bee to bee and fan it with their wings to dry it out. When honey is ready, bees store it in honeycomb cells and seal the cells with wax caps. One hive can make a lot of honey, sometimes around 60 pounds or more in a year. Bees can see colors, but they cannot see the color red. Bees can see special ultraviolet patterns on flowers that people cannot see. These patterns help bees find nectar. Bees have a very strong sense of smell and can smell many different flower scents. Bees hear vibrations mostly through their bodies and legs instead of ears. Some bees are strong flyers and can fly around 12 to 15 miles per hour. Bees beat their wings about 200 times every second when they fly. Their fast wing beats make the buzzing sound we hear when bees fly near us. A bee's life starts as a tiny egg laid by the queen in a honeycomb cell. Egg hatches into larvae, which look like a little white worm. Worker bees feed the larva until it grows big and the cell is capped with wax. Inside the capped cell, the larva turns into pupa and then into an adult bee. When it is ready, the new adult bee chews its way out of the cell and joins the hive. Worker bees have different jobs at different ages, like cleaning, feeding babies, guarding, and foraging. Foraging bees fly out to find good flowers with a lot of nectar and pollen. Workers can do a special waggle dance to tell other bees where flowers are. The waggle dance uses wiggly movements and directions to show how far away and which way to fly to reach the flowers. Bees are important pollinators. They help plants make fruits and seeds. When bees move from flower to flower, they carry pollen, which helps flowers grow fruit like apples, berries, and pumpkins. Many of the foods people and animals eat depend on bees and other pollinators. Without bees, many plants would not grow well, and there would be less food for people and wildlife. Most bees are not mean. They only sting to protect themselves or their hive. Only female bees have stingers, and males cannot sting. If you stay calm and move slowly around bees, they are more likely to ignore you. Watching bees from a little distance is a safe way to enjoy them. Have you seen a real-life bee before? If you have, where did you see it? Thanks for listening to Animal Stories for Kids. If you like our stories, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your friends and family. Until next time, bye! If your child enjoys cats, drawing, or writing, you might also like my Everyday Cats Journals. They're a 4-book journal series, each with fun covers showing cats with human bodies doing silly and everyday things. Inside,
Kids can look for little objects from the cover that appear in the top corners of the pages and try to find them all as they write or doodle. The Everyday Cats journals are available on Amazon. You can find all the details in the show notes.